things that we only begin to believe in when we are forced to face them ourselves. I never believed in ghosts, never believed in spirits, and certainly didn't believe in anything called the supernatural. Not until I set foot in VVB Hospital and stepped into room 1029. VVBM isn't like other hospitals. It's a large, ancient facility, but worn down with time. Long, dim corridors stretch endlessly, every corner like a throat ready to swallow you. The old ceiling fans creak constantly above. Frosted windows gather dew when the air turns cold. Every patient room is a scar of time. It's not a place you'd want to be alone, especially at night. Still, I laughed it off, thinking I'm just letting my imagination run wild. I had just graduated. A young doctor, still inexperienced but full of enthusiasm, was assigned to the inpatient department for my internship, a ward that had existed for decades. It was located in the old wing, with peeling paint, a sagging ceiling, and pipes that groaned through the night. People told me I was lucky to be placed in a ward with few patients and stable cases. But no one told me the real reason. Because here, as the veteran doctors say, we don't just treat illnesses. We keep secrets. Secrets about unexplained deaths. That day was a holiday. Only a few seriously ill patients remained. As per regulations, doctors on duty had to seal off any vacant rooms. That is, rooms with no patients. Tape them up, lock the doors, cut the electricity, seal them with red tape, and note the date and time. Room 1029 was one of them. I locked it at 5 p.m. Then, around 11 p.m., the hotline phone rang. I picked it up. A faint female voice, very soft, almost a whisper, from far away. "Hey, could you come to room 1029 and remove my IV?" I reflexively answered yes and got up, grabbing my flashlight. 3 steps out of the room, I stopped cold. Wait a minute. 1029? Room 1029 had been sealed. I had locked it myself. The red tape was still on the door. The power had been cut. Still, I went to check. My heart beat faster. The door was still locked, the ceiling papers unbroken. No light, no sound. I tried to calm myself. Maybe someone dialed the wrong number, but I felt something watching me from within that darkness. I could feel the stare, vague, icy cold like a syringe needle. 5 minutes later, the hotline rang again, same voice. "Hey, I already called, but no one came to remove it for me." This time, I didn't respond. I returned to the duty room and quietly pulled out the old admission records. I flipped to the name of the last patient in 1029. Final patient, M, female, deceased on December 27th. Cause of death, unknown. Notes, the body returned home the same day. My spine froze. I sat motionless, palms soaked in sweat. It was 2 a.m. Every time the wind blew through the corridor, I heard something like nails scraping glass. Not a rat, not the wind. It had rhythm. It had intent. From that moment, I never dared walk the corridor alone again. But then, at 3:12 a.m., the hotline rang again, the 3rd time. I didn't dare answer, but the ringing wouldn't stop. It kept going until the 6th time, and then it went silent. Moments later, I saw the light in room 1029 flicker once. I froze. The breaker for that room had been turned off by my own hands. Yet, the light was on. I got up, flashlight in hand, body trembling. I walked toward the room. Each step felt heavier, dragged down by fear. When I pressed my ear against the door, I heard breathing, long, shallow, like someone on the verge of death. Then, the soft sound of a needle being removed. Click. I peered through the door's crack, saw nothing, but I heard it. A faint, cold chuckle close by. Too close. I fled to the duty room and locked the door tight. But the light from room 1029 still flickered through the hallway glass, like a will-o'-the-wisp. As dawn approached, I decided to check the medical records again. But everything had changed. The line, "deceased on December 27th, had vanished. In its place, condition worsened after 11 p.m. Family refused to claim the body. Status: life signs uncertain. I gasped. My entire body was cold. I looked toward the hallway again. The light in room 1029 still glowed faintly, and I heard footsteps. Not normal ones, but the dragging sound of something heavy, slow, as if something was dragging its dried, lifeless body across the cold tiles. Finally, I decided to open the room. The lock had stiffened, like frozen shut. I entered the code and released the bolt. The door creaked open, and a wave of cold air hit me. The room was dark, silent, empty, but not abandoned. I saw an old hospital bed, the IV still hanging. Beside it, a deep depression on the mattress, as if someone had just been lying there and had only just gotten up. Then I heard it. The third call. "Hey, did you forget me already?" I dropped to my knees. Under the bed, nothing. But on the glass window, through the mist of condensation, someone had written, "I'm still here." I began to dream. Not normal nightmares, but looping visions, like a videotape rewound endlessly. I saw myself standing in room 1029, that cold, pale light from the fluorescent lamp above. The bed was empty, but the IV bag floated mid-air, swaying like someone invisible was lying there. The vitals monitor beeped. I stepped closer and saw bloodied handprints on the wall, long, sharp nails, and on the ceiling, a figure upside down, glued to the surface, as if dragged in from another world. Then I heard her voice again. "Hey, don't leave me." I woke up soaked in sweat, but on the desk in the duty room lay an IV line, neatly coiled. I had never taken it out. The next night, I wasn't on duty, but at 2:40 a.m. my phone rang. The number is unlisted. I answered. There was only the sound of wind and the slow drag of something heavy. Then a voice, "Room 1029, the IV is still in." I hung up, but the sound, that scratching of nails on tile, echoed in my head for hours after. A week later, I returned to the ward. No one mentioned room 1029, but the old nurse, the one who'd been there for decades, looked at me and said softly, "You heard her voice, didn't you?" I didn't reply. She nodded. No one gets through more than 3 night shifts here without hearing her. Since then, I've started seeing strange yellow lights following me home. Through the window, in the bathroom wall, reflected in the mirror. Some nights, I hear the IV drip echo in the middle of my living room. I'm haunted. I know it. I answered a call I never should have. I responded to a spirit that couldn't move on. Room 1029 is no longer in the hospital. It's inside my mind, in my sleep, in the midnight wind. Every phone rang at 3:12 a.m. I can't leave. Hey, don't leave me here. So if you ever see the lights in your hospital room flicker at midnight, if you hear a voice calling from under the floor, if someone says they still need their IV removed, even though you know they've died, remember this story. And whatever you do, never answer a call from an unknown number at 3:12 a.m. Because it might be room 1029. I left the medical field nearly 4 years ago, not because of work pressure, not because of income, but because I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. I touched a secret no one was ever meant to touch. I used to work at a major hospital, what people called the last line of life. But no one knew that in the basement behind the old wing, in the abandoned surgical unit, there was a room no one dared enter. Operating room No. 2. Everything started on a night shift at the end of July. The hospital was unusually quiet, as if a heavy, unseen weight pressed down on every corner. Back then, I'd just been promoted to lead surgeon. It was one of the rare night shifts where I was left in charge of the surgical floor. Most doctors were off that night. Only me and a new nurse, Sierra. There were only 2 active operating rooms, but for some reason, the light in room No. 2 was on, even though the electricity there had been cut off years ago. I thought it was a joke. Room No. 2 had been sealed for years. It was the site of a tragic incident. A full surgical team died of sepsis after a failed operation. But no one ever figured out how or why the infection spread so fast and killed them all. I went to check. The surgical wing was pitch dark. The hallway lights flickered. Room No. 2 lay deep at the end of that cold corridor, behind a thick steel door. The room was supposed to be coated in dust, but that night, bright white light spilled out from the cracks of the door. Harsh, clinical, and unnatural. The door was locked. But I heard whispers, unclear, panicked. "Be careful. It wasn't my fault. I just wanted to save her." I froze. That was when I remembered the cryptic tale told by an old doctor long ago. Room No. 2 used to belong to Dr. Leo, a surgical genius, but also the last person to ever walk out of that room alive before it was permanently sealed. They said he killed himself during an operation after realizing he had just operated on the wrong person, his own daughter. That detail had once made me laugh, but not that night. I reached out to touch the cold steel handle. At that moment, all the hallway lights went out. The door creaked open, as if someone was pulling it from the inside. I stepped in. There was no dust, no cobwebs. Everything was pristine, like a surgery had just taken place. On the table lay a small figure covered in a white sheet, and standing at the far end, back turned to me, was a man in a bloody white coat. I stepped back, my heart pounding. Before I could run, he turned around. There was no face, just a black, bottomless void, as if someone had carved out his face and pulled out his soul. He extended a scalpel toward me. "The next patient, begin." I ran. I don't remember how I got out. I woke up in the staff room. Chiara, the nurse on shift with me, said I had gone missing for over an hour. She found me at the far end of the old wing hallway, holding a bloodied scalpel. I swore I never touched it. I started digging into the case. In the dusty archive room, I found an old folder, torn and wrapped in moldy plastic. It was the file for the final surgery in room No. 2, dated November 13th, over 12 years ago. Female patient, unidentified, estimated age 16, motorcycle accident, severe facial trauma, no surviving relatives, immediate surgery due to internal bleeding, surgeon, Dr. Leo, assistant, unknown. Surgery duration, 3+ hours. Final note, patient deceased. Dr. Leo said nothing, walked out of the room. The next morning, he was found dead in the same room, next to the patient's body. I couldn't sleep for nights after. I started having nightmares. In them, I stood in that same operating room, light blazing down on me, and a girl's voice whispered behind me, "Dad, it hurts. Why didn't you recognize me?" I turned around. A ruined face mangled beyond belief, yet her tear-filled eyes still knew me, like family. But in every dream, I was the one holding the scalpel, cutting deeper and deeper. 3 months later, I quit. The hospital eventually sealed off the old wing, but no one ever removed the bulb in room No. 2, because every time someone approached, the light would turn on by itself, and, in the security cameras, a faint white figure always appeared, standing at the operating table, holding a scalpel, waiting. If you know someone who works in a hospital, ask them about night shifts in the old wing. They might have seen the light too. Don't step in.